Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In yesterday's lecture we talked about primary data collection and various ways of data collection. Nowadays we are talking about what is primary data, how do we collect it, what are various forms of primary data, and in particular we are discussing about structured, semi-structured and in-depth interviews. So just to recap yesterday's lecture or previous lecture, we have talked about the forms of interviews, and interview we discussed or defined is discussion between, or is a purposeful discussion between two or more than two people. And interview can be standardized or non-standardized. Within standardized we have seen that interview can be administered through the interviewer using a questionnaire to ask questions to interviewee. And then we have non-standardized interviews, in which we have two further categories, that is one-to-one and one-to-many. And one-to-one has examples of face-to-face interviews, telephonic interviews, internet and intranet mediated electronic interviews. One-to-many is group interviews, focus groups, intranet and intranet mediated electronic group interviews, and focus groups. So one-to-one and one-to-many has one distinction, is that one-to-one is always one interviewer and one interviewee, while one-to-many is one interviewer but many interviewee. And in that sense, both the one-to-one and one-to-many has three distinct forms: face-to-face, telephonic, intranet. And one-to-many has group, focus group, intranet, and within intranet you can have focus group. We have discussed some of the things in our previous lecture, where we have talked about that interview can be semi-structured, structured, in-depth, and group interviews. And we have also talked about where, in what kind of a study we can use which specific interview. For example, if our study is exploratory or explanatory or descriptive, then what kind of interview type we will use. So exploratory study is more frequently using unstructured interview, and descriptive study, for example, if I just tell you that unstructured interview is more frequently used, because two right tick means more frequently used and one right tick means less frequently used. And we have discussed it yesterday in our lecture that exploratory study uses more unstructured interview, while structured interview is used more in descriptive study. Semi-structured interview is more used in explanatory studies. So depending on the type or the nature of our project, we can also decide what kind of interview we want. A structured interview, we have discussed, has questions that are structured in a way that interviewee cannot go beyond the scope of the question, or it is not free-falling questions where you can discuss whatever you want to discuss based on a particular broad theme. But in a structured interview, you have particular questions within which you want to have answers. Semi-structured interview, we have also discussed that interviewer can have a broad research theme, and based on broad research theme he can or she can ask few questions, and based on these questions the interview can move further. An unstructured interview only have a broad theme, and the rest is the discussion between interviewer and interviewee. And from interviewee's discussion, interviewer try to take some important points, and based on that he tries or she tries to build on interview. And we have also discussed about the 5 P's for data quality, and we said that prior planning is one of the most important aspect for preventing poor performance in interview. And in prior planning we have discussed that you must know your own research theme, you must know your own research themes question that you want to answer, you also know the research objectives that your research want to fulfill, and based on that then you will be in a position to decide what kind of study you are doing. If you know the type of a study, explanatory, exploratory or descriptive, then you will be in a position to decide what kind of interview you want to do, structured, semi-structured, unstructured, in-depth, focus group, whatever. And then when you decide this, you'll decide who is your interviewee. Once you know that, then you'll be in a position to decide about the beginning of an interview, keeping in mind your dress code and all the opening things. So prior planning prevents poor performance, that we have to keep in mind, that we have to have a prior planning before conducting an interview. So today we will start about interviewing competence. We have already discussed in our previous lecture about dress code issues and associated challenges with interview, but what is interviewing competence? In today's lecture we will talk about interviewing competence, and there are several areas where you need to develop and demonstrate competence in relation to conduct of semi-structured or in-depth interviews, and these are opening the interview, using appropriate language, and questioning. Before interview you have to see what kind of language you are going to use, whom you are interviewing, what is your dress code, verbal, non-verbal expressions. All these basic ingredients you must cover as a researcher or interviewer, and once you cover that, then your interviewing competence demands three important things. First is opening. How do you open the interview? So opening is, how do you open the interview? Start, beginning. Do you give some idea of interview? Do you provide a logical background of the interview? Do you provide a theme on which you are conducting an interview? Do you try to introduce your interviewee or guest first and then you start, or you start introducing yourself and your organization from which you belong to, and then you will start interview? So opening is very important thing. Then appropriate language. So it depends, if you are conducting an interview in Urdu or English or any regional language, you must know the basic language nicely so that you can communicate questions, because in yesterday's lecture we have also seen, we have also learned that question and understanding of question is also very important. So if you ask a question to your interviewee, he or she must understand what exactly you want to ask, or what exactly you are asking, so that he or she cannot be distracted from the main theme or discussion that is going on. So language as well as appropriate use of language is very important. And then you have to think of questioning. So what question will come first, what will follow the first question, and then how will be the sequence of various questions in your interview. So opening, appropriate language, and questioning, these are the very important aspect of your research that one has to keep in mind before beginning or at the time of beginning of interview, because this actually shows the competence of interviewing. Listening is also an important thing. Testing and summarizing, understanding, recording and dealing with difficult participant, and recording data. So we will also talk about the most important aspect is listening. So when the interview is already started, you have asked a question, it is very important for you to become a good listener. Not only that you are a good speaker, but to be competent interviewer, you have to be a good listening quality also. And a good listening quality demands that you must adhere to what is said by interviewee. Whatever he or she is saying, you have to take note of every single point, regardless of whether you agree with that or not, regardless of whether it is right or not, regardless of whether if it makes sense or not. So whatever you listen from your interviewee, you must have to, or researcher must have to take note of it. And the most important thing before taking note is to take care of, for example, what is being said by the interviewee. So if you don't care or don't give a careful listening to what is being said, then definitely you miss some important or major element of the talk or interview. And that's going to definitely reduce your interviewing competence. Testing and summarizing the understanding. So if you listen carefully, then you definitely test, summarize your understanding. So how you ask a question, what interviewee has said, and how you, after understanding, summarizing his or her arguments. So that's also an important aspect. Recording and dealing with difficult participants. If participants are difficult to deal with, what you will do? We will discuss in detail in next slide. And then of course recording data. So whatever things you are noting down, that will become your data. How to record it, how to interpret it, how to use it further for analysis and all that. So interviewing competence, approaches to questioning. What approaches you will use when you question? So your interviewee is in front of you, you start talking to him or her, and then you start asking questioning. What can be, or what are the approaches that you can use for questioning? Can be open questions, can be probing questions, it can be specific and closed questions. So you have to keep in mind that what kind of questions you can ask and what kind of question you are actually asking. Are they open questions? Open questions means that what is your opinion? I'm just giving you an example that what is your opinion about the recent marketing strategy of a particular organization? And then he or she might go and discuss. What is your opinion about the hiring strategy of that particular private or public organization? And then it goes. Probing question can also be important part of your interview. Okay, so you ask question and then you kind of probe into it. So it means you want to say this. So in particular you want to listen something, or you want to clarify something, you go and probe on that. Okay, so you are saying this question, or you are saying this statement, or you are going this way, or you are focusing on this thing. So this is how, instead of open questions, you can also do probing. Specific and closed questions. Specific questions can be that what in particular you want to suggest to improve marketing strategy of this organization. It is similar to what is open question, but in particular single point, one line answer is that you are asking him or her a specific and closed question. What do you think? Will it happen or not? Yes, no. So these are kind of closed questions that you can ask. So these are the approaches that one can use as interviewing competence to ask and probe the interviewee. Open questions. What are open questions? That open question will allow participant to define and describe the situation or event. When you want to understand an event or an occurring or a phenomena, you normally ask open question. You don't ask yes, no, because you don't know or you want to have an understanding of that phenomena or an event. So you ask open questions. An open question is designed to encourage the interviewee to provide an extensive and developmental answer and may be used to reveal attitudes or obtain fact. So that's very self-explanatory that you ask questions because you want to get more about certain phenomena. Do you think this kind of marketing strategy is very important? And then interview says, okay, marketing strategies are this and that, and this way it moves on further. It encourages the interview to reply as they wish. Open questions give a space to interviewee to reply as or when or whatever way interview want to reply. An open question is likely to start with or include one of the following words. What do you think? How you can explain this? Why you are saying this kind of argument? Why you are following this line of inquiry? So from open questions, you basically start up your interviewing, and starting up interviewing with open questions gives you space so that you can have a more better understanding of the ongoing cases or element or things that you want to understand. And that also provide a space to interviewee to describe his or her understanding about that particular element. And then you can move a little further from open question to some other more specific, for example, probing questions. And probing questions can be used to explore responses that are significant to research topic. So once you get some basics by asking some open questions, then you start probing into it. So if this marketing strategy is not okay, which marketing strategy do you think will work and why? And if interview says that this kind of marketing strategy will work for this kind of particular product in this context, then you ask, why do you think this? And if he or she says because of this and that cultural reason or this or that income or financial status reason, then you again probe that why do you think financial status or cultural reason can have some impact. So you are basically kind of interlinking one question with another but probing a single thing into its depth. They may be worded like open questions but request a particular focus or direction. So they can also be like open question, but they are very focused to a particular point that you want to probe in depth. So this is one of the important aspects that one has to take care. So if this is not taken care, then definitely you lack your focus, and lacking focus in interview will definitely disturb the whole idea of conducting an interview. So when you start with open question, you go into probing questions. What you can do, you can also go and ask specific and closed questions. These types of questions are simpler to those used in structured interviews, and they can be used to obtain a specific information or to confirm a fact or opinion. So you can ask question like, okay, if you think poverty in Pakistan is 30% or it is less than that, and then interview can reply, I think it is 30% or it is less than. So do you think it is increasing or decreasing? It is, I think it is increasing, or I think it is decreasing. So things like that. So be specific and close-ended. Do you think government policy to reduce poverty will affect yes or no? Yes, no. And then based on yes, no question, you can also go back and ask probing question. Why do you think that this policy will work? Why do you think this policy will not work? What is in your opinion, which policy is going to work and why? So you can actually go back and forward and mix and match questions to get your theme well addressed, to ask questions that you want to answer, that you want to get answer to, and to understand the whole phenomena or the theme of your research, so that your research question is answered and your objectives are met. So starting with opening question, moving to probing question, and then to specific and closed question, you can actually move around to make a circle. So we can move, for example, here I just give you an example. I mean, it does not look like circle, but let's assume that it is a circle. And in this circle, what you can do, you basically make 1, 2, and 3. So let's start with open question. Then you have probing, and after that you have specific or closed question. So these are actually linked through a triangle. So this triangle is actually linking these three. So you cannot say that from open question you move to probing question, and from probing question to a specific or closed question, but it's basically a triangle. From open question you can move to a specific question, from a specific question you move to probing question, from probing you can move to open, and to specific. From probing you can come to specific and open. So it's kind of a triangle that keeps on moving. And we have to keep in mind that you start with simple questions and then you increase your length and depth of the question. Probing questions can be lengthy and in-depth questions. Open questions can be simple questions that can make you understand your whole topic and the idea of the interview or understanding of interview about that topic. Specific and closed questions are to the point, sharp, smart questions, but you need specific answers for that. That's why these questions should be structured in a way that the interviewee is understanding the question. He or she can better interpret the question the way you want him or her to answer, and then he or she in a position to answer it. So clarity of questions in all these three types of questions, that is probing, open-ended, or a specific or closed question, is very important. Clarity of question, and clarity of question not in the mind of interviewer but also when it is asked to interviewee. If your words make clarity in interviewee's mind and he or she can understand the question nicely, then he or she will be, or interviewee will be in the position to answer it in a way, in a right way. And if that is the case, then definitely you are at the interviewing competence level, that you are asking question that interview is understanding and are answering accordingly. So this triangle we have to keep in mind, that it's not that open question lead to probing versus a specific question, but it kind of move around. So it can be anti-clockwise, it can be clockwise, it can be this way, it can be this way. So clockwise is basically open to probing to specific questions, anti-clockwise open to specific to probing, this way is probing to specific to open, and this way is probing to open to specific. So it covers all the aspects. There is no hard and fast rule of what you ask first followed by this or that kind of question, but normally you start with open question, then you ask specific questions, and then you move on probing. Or in some interviews you ask open question, then you start probing, and then you kind of try to be specific and close question to verify opinions, facts, and to increase your understanding about a phenomena. So advantages and disadvantages of audio recording interviews. If interviewing competence, what are the advantages and disadvantages of recording interviews? If we just go back to our slides, we have seen that summarizing and understanding, and then also of course it's about recording data. So listening is important and then recording data, and we are talking about audio recording interviews. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? So we will move from left to right one by one to see what is an advantage of audio recording and what is a disadvantages of audio recording. So first is that it allows interviewer to concentrate on questioning and listening. So concentration is increased. Whose concentration? Interviewer's concentration. While he is asking question and listening answer, his concentration increased. And the disadvantage is that it may adversely affect the relationship between interviewer and interviewee, possibly of focusing on the audio recorder. Might be interviewee is not in a position or not happy that you are recording its interview, so he might or she might not be happy with that, so your relationship can be affected. Then audio recording allows questions formulated at an interview to be accurately recorded for use in later interviews where appropriate. May inhibit some interview responses and reduce reliability. So at advantage level, audio recording allows to formulate questions that you can also use in other interviews, and it also inhibit interview responses and reduce reliability. So maybe you think that because it is getting audio recorded, so you might not listen carefully or that carefully if you are not recording that. So it might that your reliability of interview responses are reduced. Its advantage is that you can re-listen the interview, and it is that there might be a possibility of technical problem. If you want to write a lengthy essay or at length about that particular interview, you can have the option that you can re-listen the interview many times as much as you want. But on disadvantage side, it is possible that when you are recording there might be disruption, so that if you want to listen again, you're not able to catch the few words of the interviewee that are relatively important for you. So there can be a possibility of technical problem, and the advantage side is that you can re-listen the interview. Accurate and unbiased record provided. So it is an unbiased and accurate record provided, because whatever interview is saying, it is recorded, and whenever somebody want to listen what is said in fact or in reality, one can go and ask for audio recording, and you can listen the audio recording. So if you want to see historical facts about one or the other thing, then you can definitely go and listen to audio recording. So it is unbiased and accurate because it is first-hand information that you are listening from the person you are quoting. So time required to transcribe the audio recording. There is a time-consuming process, and about transcribing the audio recording, we'll definitely discuss it in our next lectures, maybe in section 13.3 in the Zonder's book, so you can also read from there. but we'll definitely come and describe it and learn these things. And finally, at advantage stage, it allows direct codes to be used. It allows direct codes to be used, permanent record for others to use. So if interview has said something that you think is important for your writing, so that quote can be used as it is in your writing if you have audio recording. And on the same note, that audio recording can become a permanent record to use for others. If others want to use this or that particular audio recording, they can use it for ready reference in the future. Interviewing competence, some other things that we must consider is how to deal with difficult participants. We'll discuss in detail in the next slides. Managing resources, logistic and time. What are logistics available to you? How much time do you have? Does it make sense to conduct an interview if you have less time? If you have more time, do you have that much material to ask, that much questions and probing stuff that you can have at least to manage the time? Obtaining participants' permission for interview record, written and taped. That comes under ethical framework. So you ask participant to provide you permission whether their interview can be recorded or taped, or you are writing their interview and then you will be showing them after that so that their words can be marked and they can also see whatever they meant by saying one or the other thing. Does it clarify the sense what they want to say? So this is how you basically deal with some other important consideration when you try to seek competence in interviewing. So how to deal with difficult participant, how to manage resources, and how to obtain or is it is important to obtain participants' permission. We will be talking about difficult participant and how to address them. Recognized difficulty, and then there are some suggestions to deal with. So how do we be in a position to deal with difficult participants and how can we address them? So now we will be talking about difficult participant and how to deal with them in an interview or during interview. What can be recognized as difficulty and what are the suggestions that we can use? So we will see one by one. And why we are discussing about this difficult participant, because as a researcher or interviewee, you are not able to understand the cultural context of every place. You may be feeling out of sight from that place. An interviewee has some particular take on an issue, and you are asking question where he or she is unable to understand the sensitivity of the issue or nature of the problem. So that can become difficult for interviewer to ask questions like probing, open-ended or a specific question that interviewee can understand at first and then try to reply to these questions. So this is how interview become a difficult thing, especially when participant is difficult to address various issues that you want to address in your interview. So how to deal with difficult participant during interview or at the time of interview? There are some recognized difficulties and some suggestions that we have to keep in our mind before or even during the interview, during the conduct of interview. Participants, for example, can appear willing only to give monosyllabic answer, these being little more than yes or no. Yes, I think it is right. No, I think it is not right. So how do you get more in-depth analysis, understanding and knowledge about that particular thing? If you ask, do you think hiring people online will make sense for the organizations at public level? If he says, yes, I think it makes sense. What do you get from that? No, I think it does not make any sense. So these are the level of difficulties or the answers where do you think that participant is becoming difficult. So if his or her answer are monosyllabic, then you have to understand that this is a recognized difficulty, and we have to see what we can do. So the reasons for this are varied. There can be many reasons. Maybe he is unable to understand. Maybe there is a new development in the area which the interviewer might don't know. But it is due to limited time or worries about anonymity, then this can be minimized by careful opening of the interview. You can also refer to box 10.9 in Zonder's book on research methodology. This box 10.9 actually gives you that how you can understand to deal with if your interview is answering in yes or no kind of stuff, or in simple sentences, yes I think it can be done, no I think it is difficult to do, these kind of things. If participant gives the answers despite such precautions, try phrasing your questions in as open a way as possible. Also use long pauses to signify that you want to hear more. So if you are countering a problem of monosyllabic answer, yes it can be, no it cannot be, I think yes you are right, I think no it is not the case, these kind of things, and you want to hear more about that particular thing. So either you become precautionary measure, as a precautionary measure you use to phrase your questions in a different way or in an open way as much as possible, so that there must not be yes no answer to a particular question, but interviewee has to give a little bit more detail than just one sentence. If this is the case, it's fine. If still the monosyllabic answer are coming, what you can do is, while asking a question, you try to clarify the question to the interviewee, and once he or she is replied in just one sentence, you can actually take a relatively long pause, so that interviewee must understand or think that you want to hear something more. And in this way you can actually reduce this difficulty by either asking as much open-ended question as possible and providing some time space by giving long pauses, so that he or she can understand that it might be that interviewer want to listen something more. Second level of recognized difficulty comes when participant repeatedly provides long answers which digress from the focus of your interview. So you ask a question and then the interview is actually starting, and it is started and it goes on and on and on. So if the answers are too long, how do you deal with that level of difficulty? Although some digression should be tolerated, as it can lead to aspect about which you are interested, you will need to impose more direction. So if for few questions interview is giving long answers or relatively long answers, you can avoid that. But if it is for every such question that you are asking, then you have to think. This must be done subtly so as not to cause offense. You can do it in a way that interviewee does not feel disrespectful, such as by referring back to an earlier relevant point and asking them to tell you more, or requesting that they pause so you can note down what they have just said. So what you can do is, you can ask interviewee to please stop here so that I can write down the important words that you have said, or important things that you have said in this question or answering to this question, and then one can start. But try to be as polite or smooth as possible so that one cannot get offended. That's one of the very important thing. So first level of one, it's not sequence wise, but one level of difficulty can be that monosyllabic answer, very small answer, and to deal with that you have to have as much open questions as possible, and you can also give long pauses so that interviewer understand that you want to hear more. If a participant is answering in a digressing manner and gives so long answers, then what you do, you basically try to smoothly argue that you want to write down some of the important aspects. The interviewee has to stop for a while and then so that you can note down the answers. Third is that participant starts interviewing you. That's one of the very difficult situations. Interviewer, as an interviewer, you ask a question to interviewee, and then in response, after giving 1 or 2 line answer, interview is also asking question. What do you think? What will happen to that? What is your opinion? So how to deal with that? This can suggest that you have created rapport. However, you need to stress that you are interested in their opinion, and that if they wish, they can ask you questions at the end. So first thing that you have to tell them is that this is their interview and you are interviewing. So they have to reply or they have to answer the questions that you are asking rather than you have been asked question. And secondly, you have to clarify mostly in the beginning of the interview that whatever kind of question an interviewee can have, he or she can ask this in the end of the interview. So monosyllabic answers can be problematic when you want to probe questions. Too long or digressing answer are problematic when you want to listen the factual opinions and answers, to the point answers. And then third level of difficulty is that when participant start interviewing the interviewer, and that is one of the difficult thing. So you have to clarify these things in the beginning, that instead of he or she interviewing the interviewer, he is or she is actually here to interviewed. So that's going to help you actually to ask question and get answer to that. What are other level of difficulties? The participant is proud of their status relative to you and wants to show off their knowledge, criticizing what you do. So that's one of the things that can normally happen when you start asking questions, especially to managers or people who are sitting at a very different level of organizations. So they think that as a student or researcher you might don't know what is happening, so they kind of start becoming proudy about their level of knowledge and criticize you that you don't know. So this is extremely difficult, and at times like this you will have to listen attentively and be respectful. Even if that is the case, one thing that you must not lose is your temper. You start listening them carefully and you try to behave in a respectable or respectful manner. Remember that you are also likely to be knowledgeable about the research topic, so be confident and prepare to justify your research and the research design you have chosen. So few things you have to understand, that if you have knowledge about that topic, don't try to argue about that, but try to be confident that you have a basic understanding of that particular topic, you have prepared yourself nicely. And that's why we have these 5 P's, preparing beforehand to avoid poor performance. So you must be prepared that you know the topic, you know the understanding of the topic, basic understanding, and you have a justification of whatever research design you have in your mind, what is the research theme of your research, and how to meet the objectives and research question that you want to answer. So if you have clarity of your own understanding about that particular topic, you must not lose your confidence, and then definitely you'll try to answer in a respectful manner. Then participant becomes noticeably upset during the interview and perhaps starts to cry. So if there are emotional interviews in which you ask some question that make them more emotional, they might start crying. Another difficult one for you. So as an interviewer, that will become a relatively difficult. What you need to do is to give your participant time to answer your question, provide a little time to them, and in particular do not do anything to suggest that you are feeling impatient. Don't tell them that you are getting impatient or you are getting emotional or this is not right to cry because you are interviewed. So try to give some time to them. If your participant starts crying or is obviously very distressed, it is probably a good idea to explain that the question does not have to be answered. So you can also give an idea that if one is not willing or get depressed because of this or that kind of question, that he or she cannot answer at that stage. Do not end the interview straight away, as this is likely to make the participant even more upset. So it is not that if interviewees start crying, you stop interview at that time. They might become more upset. So these are the suggestions that you have to keep in your mind while interviewing the difficult participant. So summarizing these two slides is very important, because when you go into the field, you meet people, you ask questions, you get very different responses of how you think when you were preparing your questionnaire. So these things you have to understand. To avoid monosyllabic, you have suggestions in your mind. To avoid long answers, long sentences and all that, you have some suggestions for that. What if interviewees start asking questions to you? What if they think that they are more knowledgeable to you? And what if they start being emotional, sensitized and start crying? So these are the things that you have to keep in your mind when you start asking question to your participant, to your interviewee. And you have to keep in mind that if certain kind of situation arises, you must have some solution for that in your mind. And that is preparing you theoretically. In practice or in real life, things are relatively different, but at least you have some things for the basics in your mind to understand and realize the situation, to react in a more competent and in a more nice way, so that you don't lose your interviewee, you don't lose the confidence of your interview that he or she has on you, and you also not disrespect them in one or the other way. And these basically table are taken from Zonder's book, which is also sourced from King's 2004 research paper or book, and he has explained his own or her own experiences. So additional forms of interview that we can also conduct are group interviews, focus group discussions, telephone interviews, internet and internet mediated interviews. Group interviews can be where you ask few people or experts in one field to come and discuss about it. Nowadays, Pakistan is going through a political transition, new government is coming in, and in the month of June, when fiscal year of Pakistan ends, government has to provide budget. So you can ask 4 or 5 financial and economic experts to come and discuss about what will be the priority of new government to fix the budget for 2013 and 14. So you can ask 3 or 4 experts to come. You can have one theme of budget in Pakistan, budget making in Pakistan and new government's challenges, and then you can phrase your question accordingly, and you can take responses from each of the participants. This is a group interview. And then the focus group discussion is also that if you are doing a research in rural area and you want to see the livelihood of the people, then you try to organize a focus group. So your focus must be on group as well as on discussion. So group focus means that you know that from every walk of life people are in your group. And focus on discussion means that your topic should not be sidelined, because there are many people who have their own peculiar problems or situations, so they might move in various directions. And in that case, You basically try to remain under your basic broad theme and try to probe, ask open-ended questions or specific questions so that you can get maximum out of it. So this is the difference between group interviews and focus group discussion. Then definitely you can have telephonic interviews. For example, normally they are used when you are conducting some program or when you want to do interview, but because of less time and limited resources, you cannot travel far beyond certain limit, or it is time constraint that you cannot travel to that place. What you can do is you can telephone call that person, interview, and you can ask question that you want to ask. But beforehand you have to provide information that on what basis you are interested to interview that person, what is your research theme, what type of discussion you want from him, how much time it will take and all that, so that you don't feel disrespectful when the interview said that he or she doesn't have much time to answer on telephone. So telephonic interview is also one of the important thing. And then you have internet and internet mediated interviews. Internet, you can ask questions, you can do interviews on Skype or some other sources of internet. I will not go into much details of that because that's simply described in book in few lines. You can also read from there, but we can also understand the basics of interview. These are the mediums that you can use to conduct interview. So mediums can be important or cannot be important, but the most important thing is the basic ingredients of how to conduct interview, what should be prepared, how the interviewer should prepare him or herself, and what are the most important elements that one has to keep in mind to avoid one or the other kind of bias, to make information gathered more reliable, valid, and generalizable. So this is one of the important thing that interviewee and interviewer must have to keep in their mind. So other forms of electronic interviews are asynchronous and synchronous. And within asynchronous you have email and internet forum, and with synchronous you have chat rooms. Within chat room you kind of try to proliferate some of the questions from those who are in the chat room, and you ask, probe, open-ended question, and you get information out of it. Internet forums can also be used. There are internet forums where you can put some questions, you get some answers, and that's how you can conduct interviews. And then through emails you can also get interviews. We'll not go into much of these details because nowadays they are not that much common, but with the passage of time they are becoming common. In developing countries, because of less provision of internet and these kind of facilities, especially in rural areas or less developed areas, these are still to get into the mainstream of interviewing and research methodology. So before we end, I would like to summarize the main points of what we have covered in previous lecture on primary data collection using structured, semi-structured, and in-depth interviews, and today's lecture where we mostly discussed about non-standardized interviews. So use of non-standard or qualitative interviews should generate rich and detailed data. We have understand that non-standardized interviews generate rich data. Different types of interview are useful for different research purposes. So if you are doing a structured interview, they might serve a different research purpose versus if you want to do in-depth analysis. And of course semi-structured interviews serve another different purpose. So various forms or types of interviews serve various research purposes. Qualitative interviews are generally categorized as in-depth, structured, and semi-structured. So we have seen that we can distinguish between structured, semi-structured, and unstructured or in-depth interview form. Research design may incorporate more than one type of interview. So you can also combine a structured interview with in-depth interview, a structured interview with semi-structured interview, semi-structured interview with in-depth interview. So you can mix and match these form of interviews to fulfill your research goals and objectives. Using qualitative interviews is related to the research strategy and data collection questions. So qualitative interviews is related to the research strategy and data collection. So if you are using qualitative, and by qualitative we means that standardized interviews, because non-standardized interviews are non-standard interviews are qualitative interviews, and if you want to use qualitative interviews, they must relate to the research strategy and the way we want to collect data, what kind of sampling techniques we are using, and what is our research strategy. Is it experimental? Is it survey? Is it case study? So we have to see first our research strategy, then what kind of data we need, and then using interviews help us to understand our research goals and theme. Establishing personal contact with subjects and the length of time required are significant factors. What kind of relationship do you have with the people you want to interview? This is one thing. Secondly, time is very important, which we have discussed in both the lectures, that we have to understand that there is a time limitation on part of researcher or interviewer, and there is a time limitation on part of interviewee, so, or the subject. So one thing is very important, that whenever you want to conduct an interview, you have to be to the point. You have to understand and grasp your main theme. You have to understand the questions that you want to ask, why and how, and then you must make sense that whatever time you have given to the interviewee, you must finish your interview with that given time. And if you mismatch your given time, that's going to create a relatively problematic thing for you. Data quality issues, interviewer competence, and resource management are important consideration. We have talked about that data quality can be an issue if we want to conduct structured, semi-structured, and depth interview, and we have discussed at length. Interviewer competence that we discussed today is also an important factor, and we have seen in detail that what kind of interviewer competence we need, why they are important, and resource management are important considerations. So the logistic and time, these kind of thing that we have discussed. So these are also very important factors that we have to keep in mind. Face-to-face interviews like individual, group, or focus group discussions, and electronic interviews can all be advantageous. Depending on the condition, what do you want to use, one or the other interview form is also advantageous. Either you want to use face-to-face or you want to use electronic interviews. Both can be advantageous depending on the research design strategy and your aim and objectives. Before we end today's lecture about primary data, one thing we have to clear about in our mind, that interviewing is an art that as a researcher one has to understand very seriously. Dealing with people is not that simple, because they have very dynamic life, because they are very different from each other, because their understanding for the same problem is different from the other person. Within same household, within same organizations, same department, people think differently about the issue you want to probe into. So you have to understand these difficulties before going and asking question and interviewing people. So once you understand your interviewee and your subject matter beforehand, you will be in a better position to conduct interview, you will be in a better position to ask questions, and you are in a good position to get answer that you want to get. That helps you to clarify your research theme and questions that you have in your mind or you have written for your research, and that also meet your needs of research objective. If this is the case, your competence in interviewing is proved and you are getting most out of what you want to get. So these are some of the very important aspects that you have, or as a researcher, one has to keep in his or her mind before conducting or before starting any interview. Prior preparation and performance during interview is very important. Prior preparation is one of the most important thing that you have to keep in mind. Prior performance basically comes on three sides. One, you have to get ready by yourself. Second, you have to get ready with your contents and theme of research. Third, you have to ready about your interviewee and your relationship with your interview. So these are the three most important element of prior performance or prior preparation for an interview. If you do these three things, you'll be in a better position to conduct an interview and to get most out of what you want for your particular theme or research area. We stop here and we will start with our new topic in next lecture, and I'll see you next time inshallah. Khuda Hafiz.